Hello, and welcome to the Writing Quest podcast, episode 2.
Yeah.
2 podcasts. How's that make you feel?
Like a podcaster. What do they call him? A YouTuber, but like for podcasts?
Podcaster.
A podcaster.
Yeah. So, anyways, welcome to Writing Quest. Today, we're going to talk about Star Wars, which we love Star Wars. It's a big one for us.
Huzzah.
And then a couple of our writing things, how we write, stuff like
Processes.
that. Process, yeah. So, without further ado, this is the Writing Quest podcast.
Huzzah.
All right, here we go. Star Wars.
And?
So what I want to talk about today is your least favorite and your favorite parts of Star Wars.
I love... Star Wars is so, like, polarizing these days. I love how you're like, best, worst, go. And that could mean different for anybody.
Oh, yeah, it's wildly
Ask any two people and, like, be ridiculous.
Isn't it amazing how polarizing... Let's talk about that first. Isn't it amazing how polarizing Star Wars has become?
Like, why? Isn't that supposed to be the thing that nerds all have in common?
But it's also like people, at some point... I mean, it's obviously been a global phenomenon. It's a huge deal. It always has been since the moment it came out. But like at some point, people started caring about it so much that they're willing to like be mean. You know?
Yeah.
I love Star Wars. I care about it a whole lot. But I like even the sequels, which are generally considered to be kind of a mess. I
can enjoy watching them.
At the end of the day, they are what they are. And so you just have to, I mean, I have lots of issues with them. But
oh yes, they are pieces of work.
Okay. I don't know if we can do a top 5 and a low 5, but we'll try.
That's a lot. That's like 10 things.
There's a lot of Star Wars things out there. Okay. So do you want to start with the worst or the best?
I think let's end on a good note, so let's end with the best.
Let's do the worst. Okay. Do you want your number 1 worst thing to be like the worst thing, or 5 to be the worst thing?
Let's have 5 be the worst thing. So
we made a puppy up here. It's here if you're watching the video. All right. Top 5 best and worst. What is the first thing on your list for worst?
First thing on my list for worst, so this is my 5th least favorite thing. Here's the thing, is I don't actually have a lot of things I don't like about Star Wars. For the most part, I like it a lot. This is going to be shocking, but Jar Jar is probably 5 to me. He's not the worst thing. I think that he is a children's character meant for children.
Well, and what's amazing, like for me, I know intellectually why Jar Jar is bad.
Right.
I get that. I'm totally especially now, having watched him a bunch, all that stuff, I get it. He's a bad character.
Yeah.
But I went to the theater and saw Phantom Menace when I was 10. I was 10 years old when it came out.
And Jar Jar was funny
as shit. So to me, I love Jar Jar Binks.
Not on your top 5.
No, you know what I mean? When I was a kid and I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. He's so great.
And also think about it, that was the first time you ever saw an actually good looking CGI'd character.
Yeah. So to me, I get why he's bad, but he doesn't bug me at all.
Interesting. That's a hot take.
Yeah. Well, because he was meant for my age group, so I have nostalgia about him.
Yeah.
That overrides him being a bad character.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, when I watch Phantom Menace, I'm kind of yeah, he's a little cringy. It just doesn't bug me as much.
Interesting.
So go on. But
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jar Jar, he's number 5 for me. Do you want me to just keep going down all the way through?
Sure. Give them to me.
Number 4, I would probably have to say, here's the thing. I love Hayden Christensen. I really do. Seeing him in Jumper, that was one of my favorite movies growing up. Hi, puppy. And I think he does a really great job in episode 3. But Hayden Christensen in Attack of the Clones is a travesty, and that is not a new opinion.
There's a big jump in his acting skills from 2 to 3.
Indeed.
Which, to be fair, he was very new to the whole thing.
It's true. I mean, I guess Ewoks. I'd probably put Ewoks at 5, and then Jar Jar Binks at 4, and then the thing.
You really don't like the Ewoks, huh?
I mean, they're good.
Yeah.
But, like, here's the thing, is that...
It's a little...
I dislike so little things of Star Wars.
You're kind of nitpicking at this point.
I'm kind of nitpicking at this point, so it's like, well, I mean, yeah, they're not my favorite thing.
Yeah. All right, so what would be your absolute worst thing you hate the most?
Absolute worst thing I hate the most would be the Emperor coming back to life in the sequel trilogy. Just because it was so cool to see it when they announced it. How they did it was very bad. And
it was very out of left field. It made no sense.
Yeah.
And they had, which is the whole problem with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
They claimed to have a plan, but they clearly did not have a plan, because otherwise they would have, if I'm writing Star Wars and I know that I want, if that had never been set up, I would not have put it in the last movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if you want Palpatine to, like, the big reveal is his return in episode 9, you got to start that from the beginning. Like, you've got to be planting these little seeds of that. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, you just brought him back because you needed a bad guy.
Boom. Which is fine, because...
I don't have the problem with him coming back.
It's how it happened.
It's how it happened is a mess.
Because here's the thing, is like, his power level was way too much. Like, he's basically the dark side incarnate, and I hate the stories when the bad guy is so unbelievably powerful, and the hero is so okay, but like...
But they overcome the odds.
It's not just one lightsaber, but 2 lightsabers.
Well, it's like why, like, Voldemort makes a great bad guy, because he does have reasons. Like, he's got good reasons, but he also has good limitations.
Because he could still get hit by a spell.
Yeah, like, he isn't... He worked toward being immortal, but he didn't quite get there.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, with Palpatine, if you... like, he's just like the lightning storm that he did. If he can do that to a fleet of ships, he should be able to flick his finger at Rey, and she should explode on the spot.
Right.
If he's so powerful, why does he need Kylo Ren at all? Why did he need Darth Vader at all? Why does he need the Senate or the Jedi? Why, like, if he's that powerful, why would he have needed the Jedi gone in the first place?
Well, and that's the problem with, like, really any, you know, you could say that about Thanos. Like, there's always that moment with bad guys where it's like, it's like, fine, I'll do it myself. Like, why didn't you just do it yourself from the beginning? Right. Like, why are you using all the minions when clearly they can't handle it and you can?
Well, here's the other thing is, like, but here, with Thanos, though, it's almost justified, because it's not like he was sitting around doing nothing, even though they only ever depict him sitting around doing nothing. But, like...
He was doing other stuff.
You get the idea from Endgame and Infinity War that, oh no, he was conquering planets. Like,
his minions were, like, advanced forces going out,
Like, the Infinity Gauntlet was his hobby, almost. And he was like, I need you to do this special thing for me.
Yeah.
But, like, he was getting what he wanted done already.
Yeah, while they were trying to help him get the bigger picture done. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you probably echo the sentiments of most people with Star Wars. Yeah. And the other thing about that's the problem, is that, like, I'm totally fine that Rey is a Palpatine, but that also fell flat because they didn't build it properly.
Yeah.
Now, everything that they tried to do in the sequels would have worked if they would have just planned it better and built it properly. The payoff doesn't work because the promises were a mess. That's what happened.
The promises were genius. Because if you watch Force Awakens...
Force Awakens does have great promises.
That shit's amazing.
The progress was the problem.
Yeah. And then The Last Jedi literally answered nothing.
Created more questions.
And created just more questions.
And invalidated some of the promises from before.
Right. And then Last Jedi, they were like, well, this is it.
Yeah.
So I feel like Last Jedi was Force Awakens Part 2.
Last Jedi is kind of what you do to my writing, but it didn't work. So, like, he made a thing, J.J. Abrams wrote a thing, and then Rian Johnson was just like...
That's not all that I do.
No, I know. I'm not saying that as a diss. I'm saying, like, in this particular instance, though, it just didn't...
It didn't
you
work.
have to do the bomb drop, but also you have to do the bomb drop, but then you also have to you still have to answer some of the promises.
Doing a twist for a twist's sake is
like that's what it felt like, a twist to make it twisty. It wasn't like answer a promise, but it's different than you think.
Yeah,
it's still an answer. It's just different.
Exactly. So with a lot of Disney stuff, they do a great job of making stories that you don't expect. Mm-hmm. For instance, Frozen, right? Mm-hmm. The true love at the end wasn't the love interest that they were doing the whole time. It was a love between sisters.
It still was a love interest.
Still a love interest, still all that stuff. And she was saved at the end of the day, which is all the great tropes and stuff. But like at the very end, it was the love of sister. So like they do really good twists. Mm-hmm. I feel like they were trying to do that with Star Wars. The problem is that they were copying, like Force Awakens is Star Wars revisited. Mm-hmm. Like it is the same exact thing, which I love and I'm totally okay with. But they tried to do that, but then make everything different. And it's like, stop trying to remake.
I was okay with, so like Force Awakens is a complete ripoff of A New Hope. But because it had been so long, I was okay with it. I was like, okay, it's a ripoff, but it was worked.
True. And honestly, think about bad guys like, oh man, think about the Death Star. If it had actually been able to work the way it was supposed to, think about that. That would be an ideal for the bad guys in the Star Wars universe to like try to replicate, because clearly it was genius in terms of tyranny. Because imagine that. Imagine a Star Wars where the Death Star didn't blow up before it really was able to inspire the viewer it was supposed to.
Yeah.
That would have been the final order that the Emperor was working towards.
Yes. Yeah.
Because imagine you'd just be a planet and then you'd be like, well, I can't disobey the Emperor now because he could just blow us up.
Yeah. So we've been on a Brandon Sanderson kick, but I'll bring him up again. He does say in one of those lectures on YouTube, he's got his lecture series, one of them he does talk about Last Jedi, and he said the reason that Canto Bight doesn't work is because it's when he's talking about the promises, progress, payoff.
Right.
He says Canto Bight doesn't work because when the story starts, the promise made with Finn is that he's worried about his friend Rey and we're going to go find Rey. Yeah. That's the promise of his story. They set that up so you're expecting in your brain
he's going to find
his
Rey.
Journey in this movie is looking for finding Rey.
And then he never does.
And then they go on this random quest that has nothing to do with Rey. And he never finds Rey. And he's not looking for... It's not like he's doing the side quest to find Rey. It has nothing to do with Rey. And it's like the whole point of his character in the movie becomes null and void.
Right.
Yeah. And he said that and I was like... Because I knew, like, Canto Bight obviously is, like, the worst part of that movie. It's like, why are we... Yeah. The whole time you're watching it, you're like, why are we doing this? This makes no sense.
I love that it exists. Like,
I know, but I couldn't quite figure it out. I was like, why does this not work? Like, I get logically the plot. I understand why the plot takes them there. That wasn't the problem. Yeah. But why the plot was happening didn't make sense. Right. And then when he said that, I was like, oh... I get that. Okay.
That is something that I've really enjoyed since we started writing Quest, is not just the writing part, but the actual learning how to write part. So doing the research, finding videos to watch, and reading about writing and stuff. Like
Which we've done before.
We've done before, but like...
Yeah.
No, it's really nice because it's starting to explain a lot of stories that's like, why doesn't this work? Well, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of like things you intuitively know about story, and then it's just not... You're like, why doesn't this work? And then it... Yeah. So, all right. So that's your worst... What was the worst thing? Palpatine. Yeah. Yep.
So, Brendan.
Yeah. Aiden.
What are your five least favorite things about Star Wars?
Okay. My first thing on my least favorite list.
Yes.
However that works.
I know what you're talking about.
Is Attack of the Clones. But I like Attack of the Clones, but I hate it.
Right.
I'm kind of both. So I love it because like it expands the story. It adds the clones. You get Yoda fighting with the lightsaber. Like, all of that is awesome. Like, the world building aspect, it really explodes the world building of Star Wars. It adds a lot. But all of the acting is so cringy. Yeah. Really, pretty much all. Like, everyone always focuses on Hayden Christensen and stuff. I'm like, no, it pretty much, like...
Ian McGregor's is really good.
Yeah, Ian McGregor's great. But it comes like the script, like the lines of dialogue, like George Lucas is not always the strongest on the dialogue.
He's not. Well, here's the thing. It's an opera. It's literally an opera. So like think Shakespeare. That's what he's like. Shakespeare. That's what he's writing.
I feel like when you watch it, like when people say stuff, I'm like, that's not how you would talk. It's all very kind of weird.
That's not how people say things.
Yeah, like, so, but I do, the world building parts of it are great. Like adding like the beginning of the Clone Wars and all that, that was cool. So that's probably one.
Remember, sorry, tangent. So remember when there was, the Star Wars trilogy, right? And then George was like, George was all like, yeah, I'm gonna make a prequel trilogy. Cool, awesome, great. Started episode 1, and we were like, well, what's all this space? And then it was like 2, and it was like, well, what's all this space? And then episode 3, and it was like, well, then what's all this space?
Yeah.
And now it's just like that space is getting closed in because we have Clone Wars, which is between 2 and 3, so we've got that filled out completely.
Yeah.
Now
and there's Rebels.
And then there's Rebels.
And now there's Bad Batch.
So Rebels is 10 years before A New Hope, and which goes all the way through Return of the Jedi, right? And then we've got the Bad Batch, which
would be between Rebels and Episode 3, or Episode 3 and Rebels.
Yeah.
It's because right after 3.
And so they could potentially go however many seasons, but cover that 10 years of time to get to Rebels. And if you think about everything that they're doing right now, and I know this is not a Bad Batch episode, but...
And they've got Solo in there, which is like between Rebels and A New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like... And then they have Rogue One. Like, they're doing such a good job. They're just filling in that space, and I love it. Yeah. Because they're not filling it in with the trilogy. They're just filling it in with the lore that we want to see.
Stories of,
Boom.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job. Anyway, sorry. Number 4.
What did I say? Did I say anything?
You said Attack of the Clones.
Oh, Attack of the Clones. Number 4, I would say Knights of Ren. And I think we've talked about this before.
Wait, no, this is number 2. So your worst was Attack of the Clones?
Well, it doesn't matter. The order is irrelevant.
Okay.
Attack of the Clones. And then Knights of Ren. And the only reason, because Knights of Ren was, again, a broken promise, could have been so cool. And then it just was nothing because they planned nothing. And
they just stand brutally on spires of rock.
Yeah. So, okay. This one really gets me. Because I was totally good with Force Awakens. They kept talking about the Knights of Ren. And they built it up. I was like, that's great. They're not in the movie. It's just and so that was part of the problem, though, because now they built the expectation. And then Rian Johnson did nothing with it.
Nothing.
They should have been all
cards of
Yeah, we've got a whole thing on this where we basically fix Star Wars, and it involves the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
They could have still fixed it in 9.
But they didn't.
But instead, they just made them lazily walk around on random planets.
Yeah.
You never see them go between planets. They never talk. They never really fight anything. They
get killed by
They
Kylo
walk
Ren.
up and they go boop, 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 boop.
Menacing.
What? Just leave them out. You should have just abandoned it. That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
They talked about it in Force Awakens. Rian Johnson didn't use it in the next one. They should have just abandoned it and been like, well, it's done. Just don't even have it.
And then
it would have been better that way.
And then later they could have brought him in and been like, oh, this is the Knights of Ren.
Later they could have wrote a book that was about the Knights of Ren. They could have done whatever. They should have never put them in 9.
Yeah.
Cut all of those scenes out.
I mean, they don't even talk about the Sith in the original trilogy.
Right.
The word Sith is never even said. But we now know that there has been Sith for generations.
Yeah. That's, if they, the other way they should have went, they build it up in 7. You're like, oh my gosh, what are the Knights of Ren? And then 9 is literally about Knights of Ren and Luke's Jedi fighting each other. That is the movie.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
Last Jedi should have been Luke and Rey trying to not convince, like Rey needed to go to Luke and
collecting their Jedi warriors.
And going to Rey should have gone to Luke. Luke was trying to figure something out, but couldn't. Something to do with the origin of the Jedi. And then Rey comes and she figures it out. And then he's like, we can do this. And then they go out. And
yes. And then 9 could have basically still kind of been what it was, but the Knights of Ren are better.
Yes.
It's so frustrating to me. What a complete missed opportunity.
Yeah. It shouldn't have been Palpatine.
It should have been
the Knights of Ren.
It should have been Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren being the ultimate bad guy. Because, like, one of the most brilliant things about Last Jedi, which I love, which just might be kind of controversial, is how Kylo Ren kills Snoke.
Yeah.
Brilliant, because he did what Darth Vader couldn't do until the end when Darth Vader ultimately dies.
Right.
He did what Anakin couldn't do.
Yeah. And then Kylo Ren should have been the bad guy.
Like, Darth Vader at some point, theoretically as a Sith, he would have killed his master and become the Dark Lord.
Yes.
He could never do that.
He should have become the Dark Lord and then does everything, and Rey's like, there's no choice, I have to kill Kylo. And then she does. And then right near the end, Kylo doesn't redeem himself. He regrets everything.
Yeah.
That's the other story that hasn't been told.
Yeah. Because Darth Vader, like, he was too downtrodden. He was too in his grief. He could not overcome to take over. Kylo Ren, on the other hand, chose this life.
And could have.
See, Anakin didn't choose. He was tricked.
And forced to do it.
He chose, ultimately, but mostly he was tricked and coerced into becoming Darth Vader. Kylo Ren chose it. He was not, like, he got mad at Luke and chose it, which is brilliant. And then, but he's like, I'm going to kill my master, and he takes control. And so 9 should have been Kylo Ren actually being, like, the supreme leader that they have to. He should have been the bad guy. It cheapened Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Because they built up Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren seizes control.
Yeah.
Becomes a supreme leader. And then they're like, Palpatine. Yeah. Like.
Didn't work.
What a mess. Oh my gosh. Maybe my least favorite thing is the sequel trilogy.
It would have been cool. You see, it's not, but then when you talk about it, it is. It would have been cool.
So rife with problems.
If Kylo was trying to find the planet that they were at, what was it called? Malachor.
Exegol.
Exegol, right. Great name. Loved it. Loved Exegol. It would have been great if Kylo was trying to improve himself or whatever, and he goes to Exegol, and then he finds a decrepit, like maybe he finds Palpatine, but Palpatine
is lost. Yeah,
yeah,
not secretly just holding on to power.
like
so many.
They make it seem like he never even lost.
Yeah. What's frustrating about this is, and I don't know if this is arrogant to say, but I feel like this is why Star Wars fans are upset. We are nobodies sitting in a basement recording a podcast, and we can see all of these plot holes.
Like, the amount of people that would have had to see everything.
Right.
And approved it and okayed it.
All of you people are getting paid millions of dollars to make this movie, and none of you can figure this out? Why there's so many issues with it? Like it's just baffling to me that they started a Star Wars trilogy with no plan.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, so, okay, I talk about this a lot. If you're looking for a really good how movies are made thing, watch the Hobbit appendices. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, Peter Jackson, he planned out Lord of the Rings so that basically everything was storyboarded, right? With the Hobbit, and I know a lot of people have problems with the Hobbit. It's fine. It's whatever. I love the Hobbit.
I think the first one's great.
Great.
The other two, they start to degrade, you know.
Yeah, there's flaws, but it's fine. But where I think, and why I think that those flaws kind of appeared is because Peter Jackson had significantly less time to actually plan and prepare, because there was supposed to be another director. He was just supposed to produce.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, something like that. And then like the studio didn't get approval in time, and then del Toro was like, I can't keep waiting for this. I have to go make a movie.
Yeah, I have to go move on.
Yeah, so he did, and then Peter Jackson was like, yeah, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, but he had like way less time.
And he had way less time. And he talks about how like he's just flying by the seat of their pants, essentially. At one point in the documentary, they're out a day, and he's just like completely burnt out.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I just don't know. Like, he's just whatever. And then he tells everyone to just keep preparing, keep doing sets, keep working and stuff. And he just sorts these little fake jewels, and he just does that for like an hour. And they have footage of him doing this. This is real. This actually happened.
He's just like wasting time, basically, like trying to recharge.
Yeah, and he's like, I just needed a mindless task where my brain could just be. And he does that. And there is actually a shot where Thorin throws the diamonds everywhere or whatever.
Yeah.
And that all happens. And it's really cool. So yeah, but thinking about that amount of preparation,
right?
That's what Star Wars needed.
Yeah,
for like Lord of the Rings.
Well, so think about like, you say what you want about the prequels, but the story is pretty cohesive. Like I mean, it was spoiled because we had the original trilogy, so you know what's going to happen. But like, of course, the story is more cohesive. Yes. There's always some issue, but it's cohesive. So like the beginning starts, the middle, and the end. It's a nice bubble. But the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy had 3 years between each movie.
Yeah.
They had 2 years between all the sequel movies.
It's true. And they also think about it. George Lucas, it was one guy's story, and he had been thinking about this story for ages.
Well, and he had all 6 movies outlined. Like he knew the prequels were not an accident. He made Star Wars. He started there because technologically he felt like that's where he needed to start. Like he couldn't. I don't know if this is verified. What I think is he looked at his prequels and he thought, I can't technologically pull off that many Jedi or that many like how do I do it? Which is why he started where he started. Because it was a smaller story that he could manage with the technology of his time. So but he still had, like, he knew those 6 movies pretty much the general story.
Yeah.
Whereas
the sequels was just kind of like they started off with hype, which was fine.
Well, here's what's crazy is, so in Bob Iger's he wrote a book. Was the CEO of Disney. Ride of a Lifetime. It's kind of an autobiography of like lessons he learned running business or whatever. He says in there that he regrets like how that they didn't like George Lucas gave them like this is my story ideas for 789 and they just completely tossed it out. They didn't use it at all. That's where they messed up. They didn't have to let George Lucas write the dialogue. They didn't have to let him write the scripts. They didn't have to do any of that. But the fact that they took his story treatments and used nothing and threw it completely out the window, that's the problem. That's where they messed up. Because he's the creator.
Yeah.
You can't completely throw out the creator. You have to leave, which is why Mandalorian and all that is working so well, because Dave Filoni and
I want to say Patrick Rothfuss.
Jon Favreau.
There we go.
Are so ingrained in George Lucas mythology.
Yeah.
That's why it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a real long tangent for the worst. What's your favorite? I'll take my favorite, and that'll be it.
Okay.
What's your favorite? Very favorite Star Wars thing of all time right now.
My favorite thing. Ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Tell it to me.
Okay, I got you. Sorry. My favorite thing is in Attack of the Clones. I know, I'm sorry. It is when all of the Jedi are in the Geonosis arena and they all turn on their lightsabers and it is like, come at us, bro. And then they do.
It's like the first time you ever see all the Jedi. Like it's a big...
I want to see an army of Jedi. I want to see 10,000 Jedi versus 10,000 Sith on a plain of Naboo and just fighting, and then I want to see 2 at the very end survive. Like,
great.
That's what I want to see. I don't even care if there's a story. I just want to see that cinematic sequence.
Well, there's video games of that.
I know. I want to see it in IRL CGI stuff.
All right.
And then my second favorite thing is in Revenge of the Sith, the opening scene when they're flying through all of the ships and stuff.
Oh, and then the camera comes over and it's the battle. That is a great shot. Yeah, I love that shot.
That one's pretty good. I would say, because it just makes you so excited, because you're like, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so calm.
It's literally,
hey, we're just floating above Coruscant. No big deal. You know, I love it. Yeah.
It's so good. It's literally like that is the war in the stars. Think about that. Yeah. Star Wars is about wars in stars.
Yes. So, what's your favorite story thing going on right now?
Going on right now?
Yeah. Or anywhere. Like, what's your favorite storyline of Star Wars?
Ooh, that's tough. I'd say of the current stuff, Mandalorian. Just in general. I mean, I'm trying to read the books. I can't read science fiction Star Wars books. I'm really a fantasy guy. It just doesn't fit with my brain very well.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that. But Mandalorian, I think, is best because there's actually relationships that matter, and there's promises, and then there's progress, and then there's payoffs, and then consequences.
Yeah. Mandalorian is very good. My favorites, it's kind of hard. Bad Batch is super solid, and I'm excited. Spoilers, in the last 2 episodes ago, when they reveal like Omega is a perfect clone replication, and the only other one that was Boba Fett, who was an alpha, who was called Alpha.
Right.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That's a cool... That'll be cool to see how that unfolds, because Omega could end up in Mandalorian or like Book of Boba Fett or something. Did you even think about that?
No.
I totally just blew your mind, didn't I?
Whoa.
Because that's his sister. That would so imagine Book of Boba Fett opens.
Boba Fett has a sister.
And it's Boba Fett and his sister Omega.
I mean, I always figured he had brothers, but like, whoa.
Yeah. No, it's cool. So, Bad Batch is super cool. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I'm liking, it's really cool to see immediately after Revenge of the Sith. That's really cool.
One of my favorite things about Mandalorian season 2 was when Boba Fett was like, they'll recognize my face when they're trying to get into like an Imperial something or other. And I was like, wait, why would they? And I was like, oh yeah, Empire Strikes Back. And then I was like, wait, no.
He's a clone.
He's a clone.
Those are my favorites. I might Light of the High Republic. I'm loving that.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I need to read the new one.
So I'm not finished with the end. High Republic, Mandalorian, Bad Batch are all three very good so far. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for the Writing Quest podcast. Hope you liked it. And we'll see you next time.